Hey guys, Blake here, and today I'm taking a look at Bristol 1350, a social deduction slash racing slash dice rolling game for 1 to 9 players. And if you stick around, I'm going to tell you why I think Bristol might either be one of your new favorite social deduction style games, or why I think this book needs to just go back on the shelf. So to set the game up, whether you are playing solo or at the full 9-player count, you're always going to set up the 3 carts in this order, with the birch in first, the cedar in second, and the oak in the third position. To start the game, you will take the meeples of the players, you'll toss them in the bag, and you will draw them randomly. And like in a 5-player game, the rulebook will tell you how to set the game up, but in a 5-player game, you would place 2 in the first cart, 2 in the second cart, and the last meeple you draw in the third cart. So each player is going to get 2 symptom cards to start the game, but you will take out the symptom card with a value of 4, and all the other symptoms ranging from 1 to 3 are shuffled and given out to the players. In this game, if a player's symptoms ever add up to 6 or more, they are considered sick and they have the plague for the rest of the game. If a player starts the game with 2 3s, that would be a 6, which would mean they're sick. They will reveal that and be given 2 new symptom cards. So in this game, nobody starts out sick. You will only become sick through the mingling that happens in the game. So once the players, have their character cards, they have their 2 symptom cards, you can begin. One player will give the dice a roll, and this sort of sets the dice for the round. On a player's turn, and you will take turns in order of the carts. So the cart in first position, you go front to back, and then to the next cart front to back, and then to the last cart front to back. On a player's turn, they have a few actions they can choose from. They can choose to re-roll any 2 dice, and the dice are movement in this game at the end of the round. So the dice have 2 symbols. They have rats and they have apples. Apples are essentially good movement. Rats are also movement, but they can potentially have a harmful effect. So there's 2 of each color. There's an apple of each color, and there's a rat of each color. So on a player's turn, they can choose to re-roll any 2 dice, or they can take player actions. So you can elbow your way to the front of the cart. So if a player is in the back of the cart, or next to last, they can take their turn moving to the front. And moving to the front of a cart helps because A, that means your turn order, you're going to go before other players, but also once the carts start moving, you could spend an action jumping into a cart in front of you, which if that cart's in the lead, you might want to jump up there to try and, get out of town. Additionally, you can push a player out of a cart. So if you think a player is sick, you can choose to push them, and they would be pushed into the next cart with an open space. If, for instance, it was like this, orange player can choose to push the white out of the cart, and because there's no cart behind them, white would be out of the game and dead. However, if the white player was not sick, did not have symptoms adding up to 6 or more, the player who pushed them out also dies as well. So it punishes you a little bit for being, too aggressive or too brutal in the game. Players will also start the game with a remedy card, but they can choose to draw remedy cards as their action, and remedies will essentially give you extra actions in your turn. So there's things like whip that you can play to prevent players from dashing into your cart or elbowing past you in your cart. There are crushed emeralds that gives you an extra movement action. There's things that let you re-roll dice, and they're just action cards that can be played on your turn to do some additional things. So at the end of the round, once all players have taken their turn, you will figure out the movement and if there is any mingling that happened. So here's where some of the deduction and strategy, I guess, comes into play. Because if at the end of the round, any cart has 2 or more rats, all the players in that cart are forced to mingle. And what mingling means is that those players will shuffle their symptom cards together along with a symptom card from the deck, because after that initial symptom handout, you'll add those 4s back into the deck. You'll shuffle those all together and re-deal 2 symptom cards to each player. So it's likely now that a player who was not sick before they may become healthier because they might get lesser symptoms, but it's also possible that they become sick with the plague because they may have gotten a higher card from the symptom deck, or the person they were in a cart with might have given them a higher card, and so that creates that sort of paranoia and deduction. And so you want to not mingle if you don't have to. But in this case, the players in the white cart would have to mingle, so green and yellow would have to do the symptom swap, and the red cart would have to mingle. And even though there's only one player in the red cart, they would still have to draw a symptom from the deck, shuffle them with their symptoms, and draw 2 new symptom cards. After that has happened, you will then move the cart. So the white cart would move 3, 1, 2, 3. The red cart would move 2, 1, 2, and the birch cart would move 1. And that would be the end of a round. A new player would re-roll the dice, and you will then take your turns again. So the game is a race to the finish line where players are going to be elbowing to the front of the cart, jumping carts, pushing players into other carts, or just trying to, if you trust the players in your cart, just trying to get as many dice of your color as possible so you can race to the finish line as fast as possible. However, once a cart reaches the finish line, those 2 players will share whether either one of them was plagued. If a player in that cart was plagued, everyone in that cart is plagued and loses. The game will continue one more round where the other players will have that one more round to try and reach the finish line. So if you're a plagued person, you are trying to, get into these different carts and mingle with players, because you will only win if everyone else is plagued or no other cart reaches the finish line after that plagued cart reaches the finish line. And if you're healthy, you're trying to stay away from plagued players and get your cart out of town as soon as possible.
I'm always on the lookout for more social deduction games, something new, something fresh. And I actually really enjoy this one. We all started off as healthy people on wagons, just trying to, try not to get the plague and get to the finish line. But then as time progresses, people catch the plague, and when you catch the plague, you're just like, all right, now I just want everyone to get sick. Yeah. And it reminds me a little bit of Human vs. Zombies, where it switches your mindset, and you're like, all right. And it's kind of fun to be like the devious one in the group and be like, all right, everyone's going down. I don't know, like when we played, we were more of we try to be like, okay, can I trust you? Can I not trust you? And it's like, but together, if we trust each other, we can go far. And it was refreshing. It was nice. I liked it.
There was a lot of fun. I really liked when I did become infected, just how the gameplay or the strategy changed completely.
Yeah, I like the multiple sets of strategies, from changing carts to blocking people so you only get 3 in there, or using the whip to keep people out. And then also the setup was super quick, and that's always a point, especially end of the night you want to pull a game out, maybe a quick game, but you can't set it up quickly. So setup and everything, and a great game.
I like how the game can either be a co-op game or like a regular versus game, depending on how you play it. Because you could decide to play with the people in your cart and work together, or you could decide to screw other people, and then it becomes a very like you versus everyone else kind of game. So I like how, depending on what kind of player you are, the game can work differently for you. Okay, so for my negative, I think that the game relies very heavily on a honor system. Someone could easily get infected and then not say anything, and then later on get cards that make them appear not to be infected. I wish there was like a better way to kind of track who was and wasn't infected.
My negative was some of the powers. Like, I definitely added to some of them, but some were kind of super situational, so you wouldn't really use them. But I guess you don't have to use any of the powers at all. So that's my only drawback.
Yeah, 8 out of 10. It plays very well. I don't have any big cons. I think it works well for what it is. I think an 8 out of 10.
I'm gonna go 8.5. Like, it's got it all. Quick setup, nice pieces. The book over there. You got dice too. Like you said, co-op or versus, however you want to play it. So 8.5 is one of the better small little games I've seen.
I like that. I think 8.5 is a pretty good score. It's also super short and quick play too. So you can play it 2 or 3 times back to back in a very short period of time.
I wonder if it can get old, but I will 100% agree that it's like an 8 or out of 10. I love how quick and fun it is.
So here's the thing, Bristol plays in about 20 to 40 minutes. It is a really quick, fun, party style deduction game, and I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite deduction games I've played of recent. I mean, first off, we got to talk about the presentation. I mean, these book style designs they do, I think, are just really cool to look at. It makes them really easy to carry, and it feels like you're getting a really fun experience in a small sort of containment. I think that turns happen pretty quickly in this game. There's not a lot of opportunity for analysis paralysis, because you have that sort of luck of the dice rolling. It's not a game that you can really plan out what you're going to do and when. It's just a game that is, for me and my group, fun. I like that for the most part there isn't a lot of take that to this game. So while yes, you can push somebody out of your cart or elbow your way to the front, the sort of meanest action in the game is pushing somebody out of your cart and then being pushed out of the game. But you have to be careful about that, because if you push out a healthy player, you would die as they would die. So it's really punishes you for just saying, I'm just gonna kick people out for no reason. I feel like it's rare these days that we pull out a game and people say, let's play that again. This was one that happened for, where it's like, let's play it again. Let's try it now with the variable player powers. I think the player powers add an interesting kind of twist or extra element to the game while not being overpowering. And I also like that it is a very low pressure deduction style game, in that, with some of the more hardcore ones, Werewolf, Secret Hitler, the Resistance, it really requires you, if you are evil in those games, to play aggressively and make moves, bluff. And in a game like this, because there's kind of an element of silliness, we just found we had a lot of fun moments where we were looking at the people in our carts like, come on, are you sick? Are you healthy? Do I need to kick you out? Do I need to get the heck out of Dodge and move to a different cart? So for the negative, I think with this nice, small, compact, travel size box, you also have travel size components. And I felt like the tininess of the components did get in the way a little bit. I think the map, I would love to see a larger map that takes up more table space, but because, they're creating it to fit in this box, the map is kind of tiny, especially when you consider you might have 9 people around a table playing this game. The text on the cards is a little bit small, and the meeples, or your player characters, whatever you want to call that, they're very tiny as well. And we found as we were pushing people forward and out of the carts that we were constantly kind of knocking those around and knocking them out of the carts because they're just pretty small. So I think that's kind of it is what it is with this. I also think that a game about escaping from a plague might not be the most fun escape for some people in this moment, but again, it does take place in 1350, so there is that. That is just going to be a negative for a few people. One of my only other negatives is I think the player count. I mean, with all deduction party style games, the more players, the more energy, the more fun. And even though this says 1 to 9 players, there are probably other experiences that are going to be better for you if you're really looking for solo games. Likewise, if your game nights, you typically only have, 3-4 players. I think this is one that I probably wouldn't put on the table unless I have 5+ players, but I love that it is an option for those times where I have a bigger table, where I have more people who are open to playing a deduction style game. It plays quick. So all in all, Bristol 1350 is definitely a recommend for me. I think aside from just the awesome packaging that makes me want to collect all of the games in this series, I think it packs a really fun game inside here. I think this is a solid game if you're looking for a beginning of the night or end of the night game for a larger group of people. And so for me, Bristol 1350 is an 8.5 out of 10. I highly recommend this game, and I'm glad to have it in my collection. So those are my thoughts on Bristol 1350. If you own this one, tell me where it falls in your collection, or what just your general favorite go-to social deduction game is. But until next time, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.